Hello, all you beautiful people out there. I'm Goose, and this is On With the Show. And today's topic, we're going to talk about, and I know this just sounds strange, but I'll get into it in just a little bit. We're going to talk about the Duggars, because I had a chance to watch Shiny Happy People over the weekend about the Duggars, and let's just say that for me personally, some of the things I've believed are actually true about the Duggars. So before we get into it, if you haven't already, go down, subscribe to the channel, bang the bell for notifications, bang, bang, bang the bell for notifications, so you always know when new videos are uploaded, and give me a big like on the video because it does help me with the algorithm and get this out to other people. And yes, let's get started. I had a chance, because this show, Shiny Happy People, kept popping up on my feed for my Fire Stick, and for some reason, I had not seen the first one about the Duggars' family secrets, and apparently they had some very crazy family secrets to talk about, and I'm going to be completely honest here when I say that, I'm not a big fan of the show. I think for as many seasons as it has been on, I think I watched 3 episodes of the show, and every time I watch it, because I have family members and people who are like, oh my gosh, you got to watch this show. Look at this family. They're growing. There's 16 kids and counting, 17 kids and counting, and 19 kids and counting. They're all they look so put together, and having these Christian values, and I watch, and I'm like, something's off with this family. I couldn't pinpoint it at the time, but I just felt something's not right here. Something's off. You ever have that time where you go into a place or you watch a show and you feel like, I'm being lied to here. Something's not right. And that's what I felt of the times when I would watch the Duggars on TLC. And when, because it just seemed, maybe it was like, it seemed too perfect for me. It seemed fake to me. You have 19 kids and they're all behaving. I have 3 adult children. I treated them all differently as kids. There were times I couldn't get them to sit down for a picture. Hey, let me take your picture. And they'd be all, they're kids. And yet for some reason, I would watch this show and I would be like, something's not right here. Something's not right here. And when I watched Shiny Happy People on Prime, it's on Prime, about the Duggars, that's when I realized, yep, I was right all along. They got bigger secrets than a lot of the other American families here. As a matter of fact, I want you to go back. One of the pictures I showed was of them, and I want you to see this picture here of here it is, Shiny Happy People. And if you look at everybody, they all have the big smiley face on their face. Even Michelle. The only person that doesn't have one on is Jim Bob. Jim Bob Duggar doesn't have one of those big happy faces covering his. And I think you know why. It's because Jim Bob was the only one, I think in my opinion, that was keeping guard of all. Everybody has to be happy. Come on. We got to be a great example for all of these other Christian families out there. So let's all be happy. Let's be happy and let's not disobey, and let's not run around and cause problems, because you know what happen if it causes problems. Oh, the press will get out and it'll show and expose that we're actually real people with problems. Now, here's the biggest thing that it exposes, and that is that apparently they are involved in a cult called IBLP. What does IBLP stand for? I'm not going to go into it. But if you look up, what is it, Bill Gothard and IBLP, you'll realize this was a guy who had some of the most extreme Christian beliefs as possible. Because we got to make sure, because it basically was all the umbrella theory. God is the big umbrella, and the husband is below him, and the wife's below him, and then the children down here. And if there are holes in your umbrella, things are bad. Satan's getting in, and if Satan gets in, it's going to be really hard for us to maintain control, because that's what the whole thing was about. It was maintaining control. Bill Gothard basically preached control over your family to men. Men, you are the head of the household. God is above you, but you are the head of the household. And everything, you must have control over everything. And if something's going wrong, you don't have control. If your kids are talking back and if they're acting bad, you don't have control. And you are the problem. You don't have control over your family. And you're being a bad Christian. Now, let me tell everybody here that Bill Gothard was never married, never had kids. And he apparently had a penchant for young women. But he felt he could tell you how to raise your family. Now that Bill Gothard's gone, guess who is the head of the IBLP? Guess who's the new cult leader? That's right, Jim Bob Duggar. And he got there because of his fame and his money. I get really upset about this, just forgive me, because I get real annoyed when people use God and Jesus as the reason that the reason that they do bad things. I get very passionate about that. I don't like that. I think people who use God and Jesus as a reason to be controlling and overbearing and, abusive to their family, to be the worst kind of people possible. And so, here you have in the end, the results of his parenting, of having the perfect family. You have a son in prison and at least one daughter who is estranged from the family. All in the name of notoriety, fame, and money. Jim Bob Duggar. Jim Bob Duggar, I think, for all these people who put him up on a pedestal, I'm going to tell you something. You put him on the wrong pedestal. Because that dude doesn't need to be there. He failed his family as a father and as a husband. He should have been... Let me just go into some of these details. All right, so... As we all know, as it's been well documented, Josh Duggar, abused his sisters and a family friend. At least one family friend. I'm not going to go into the details of the abuse because it's already out there. You can just look it up. All right. And rather than get the help he needed, rather than, they decided to they swept it under the rug. They went to the sheriff and Josh turned himself in. He turned himself into, it helped that Jim Bob knew the sheriff, according to the documentary, and was basically told, well, if he does it again, I'll have to really put him away. Seriously? Seriously. And here's the one key part about that whole thing. If it wasn't for the family friend coming forward, no one would have known about it. Nobody would have known about it. It was basically like, You allowed your son to victimize your daughters, and then you told your daughters, don't worry about it. Just forgive him. Everything will be okay. Yeah, when you go on that interview, just tell them that, that you love your brother and that you forgive him, and, not realizing that other people could see problems with Josh before all that. And yet they continue to go. But why? Because the Duggars were TLC's champion show. They showed how a couple can raise 19 kids and they can all behave. All because they were involved in a religious cult that demanded discipline beyond anything else. I'm going to say this very much because I think Jim Bob Duggar is a jackass buffoon. You missed it, dude. You totally missed it. You sacrificed your daughters and their trauma for your fame and money. And then when TLC decided, after all the backlash, to pull the plug, you went scrambling trying to figure out how do we recover this? How do we recoup this? How do we recover this? And of course, it just so happens that your oldest daughter, Jill, was getting married. And so, hey, let's have a spin-off of the show with the two oldest daughters and their husbands. And yeah, it'll be Counting On with Jill and Jessa, and it'll be great, and everything will be fine. And you conned your older daughter, Jill, into signing a contract that would allow this to go on and to happen. Even when they just, no, we don't want to be a part of this anymore. Well, you kind of have to because you signed a contract. And then they looked at and then she looks like, I didn't sign a contract. When did I sign a contract? And then they send her the contract and she realizes it's the one that her dad put in front of her the day before her wedding for her to sign. Which is kind of smarmy, dude, because, if you think about it for a minute, let's just think about this for a minute. She's still your daughter, which means she's still under your roof. She hasn't been married yet. Right? She hasn't been married. So you can still get her to sign it. I'm sure she had no idea. She even says, I had no idea what I was signing. And when they approached us to do a show, we kind of felt like we had to. And here's the crazy part. Here's the crazy part of all this. Is that when Jill Duggar and her husband were like trying to make ends meet. And they were having to go to food banks to live off of. And they decided to call TLC and ask them, hey, where's the money from our show? We haven't seen a dime. And the producers from the show went, oh, we paid your dad. You take it up with him. It was like, apparently, I guess, he was getting paid $850 million for the show. A show that his daughters are on. They got nothing. They didn't make a dime. It had their name on it. I think, and I know exactly what happened. Jim Bob Duggar, snuck his way in. He basically, I guess, made himself both, probably a producer, probably an executive producer, because an executive producer is the one who fronts the money, but they're also one of the first to get paid back, with interest. So he probably got himself on there with some credits for some producer credits so that he could continue to make money off his daughters and who didn't get any compensation for anything on their show. And yet apparently, I guess their shows were some of the highest rated ever because of the weddings and the babies and all those. And in the meantime, his son Josh gets popped for child. And you can read about that. And rather than, and then they have to bring up the past for Josh Duggar. And his father's continuing to try to... His father, Jim Bob Duggar, the jackass buffoon, is trying to... And I understand, you want to save your son, but sooner or later, you're going to have to tell the boy that you screwed up and you need to own up to your responsibilities. His oldest married son with children is caught with vile stuff on his computer at work. The work computer. He's not going to have it at the home computer. Of course not. He'll have it at the work computer. And you're going to try to back him. Not the people he victimized. You're going to try to back him. And then when he ends up getting convicted and sentenced to 12 and a half years to prison, then you become mum and don't say anything. And what makes it even crazier is that the dude ran for state senate in Arkansas. Because I guess that's what you got to do. Yeah, my son is on trial for all of these heinous crimes, but I'm going to try to get into the state senate. Again, I'm a little passionate about this because you missed it, dude. You missed it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, again, I mean, it was one of TLC's biggest shows. And if you ask them, I mean, first of all, just let me do the back half on it like this. First of all, if they ever say it's reality TV, it's not reality TV. It's called unscripted television, which means there's no script. If you were to ask them, everything was basically production-wise the same kind of production. You just didn't have a script. They would basically say they took 12 shots of us walking down a hallway. You're walking down a hallway, I think you can get it in 1 or 2 shots. Oh, the lighting's not right. Or this is, it's not reality TV. Anything that TLC puts out, truthfully, is not reality TV. It's unscripted. You got a producer there who's like, it would be really cool if you did this. So that way we could have a lot of drama, and so we can create some things that would go on. Yeah. You want to know what reality TV really is? Go watch The First 48. That's true documentary style reality TV. You're just a fly on the wall watching these investigations go on. You watch something, any paranormal show. That's reality TV because basically it's a camera and the dude and them trying to get evidence. Nothing's scripted. Nothing is scripted. Nothing is done to where the producer has any kind of control. Unless they're like doing interviews or something. But if you look at shows like The Duggars, John and Kate +8, I Am Jazz, A Little People Big World, 1,000 Pound Sisters, trust me, a lot of that stuff may be quote reality TV. It's just unscripted. It's a producer sitting there saying it would be really good if we did this to cause a little tension. And that's what I'm getting at here. All right. Because it truthfully was not reality TV. Jim Bob Duggar lied to a lot of people. If you go and see Shiny Happy Faces, Shiny Happy People, the first season, talk about the Duggars, they have pretty much alienated close friends, relatives, even their own children, all for the sake of IBLP. All for the sake of looking so good. And we're bringing in all this money. And yeah! And yet, you didn't do really anything as a father to help raise those kids. You didn't. I and I know this show was done in 2023, but I didn't know all the extent of the details, that went on behind the scenes. The sad thing is that Anna Duggar is still married to Josh. With everything that has been presented, she's still married to him. And some people are like feel sorry for her because it's like, what is she gonna do? She's currently living on the Duggar compound, so it's basically she's probably hearing it from Jim Bob or Jackass Buffoon every freaking day. How she needs to be faithful to her husband, despite his mistakes. You need to be faithful to your husband, and she has 3 kids with him. Even if they divorced, she'd still have to deal with him because they got 3 kids together. Who knows what would happen, because of what he was convicted for, but it's a sad situation. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like to get in her ear and go, leave, go, get out. You don't need to stay here anymore. I'm sure she could find a much better life way off the Duggar compound. And the Jackass Buffoon, he ripped off his daughters, stole money from them. He didn't necessarily raise his son because he wanted to hide everything that he was doing for the sake, again, for image and money. Because we gotta look good. We gotta look good. We're shiny, happy people. I went, and I know TLC has a lot to blame because the TLC just pours money into these shows. They don't really care. I went looking at some of the stuff for TLC. Josh Duggar's in prison. Jill Duggar is estranged from her family. Johnny Kate Goslin, remember Johnny Kate plus 8? Yeah, they're divorced. We all know about their divorce. And the train wreck that came out of that. Matt and Amy Roloff from Little People Big World, they divorced. I just recently read that Matt and his current fiance have split up. Teresa and Larry Caputo, the Long Island medium, they divorced, but they seem very happy. And of course, just recently we heard Amy Slayton from 1,000 Pound Sisters, divorced and arrested. And now apparently she is no longer with her fiance. They have split up. Now, for all the tragedies that do happen on TLC, because I think TLC does bear some of the blame for some of the stuff that goes on. Like they should have really have pulled someone aside and said, "Hey, I think we got a problem here. We need to take care of this, or otherwise we're going to lose our show. We're going to lose our cash cow." But I think for every tragedy that happens on TLC, we have Kat Von D, who turned her life around and became a born-again Christian. Jazz Jennings has been on a weight loss journey. I think she's much happier than she had been before. So I think there are times where, and I don't know, I think a lot of that has to do with maybe the fact that they're no longer on television. That has a lot to do with it. Because let's be honest, I'm sure when TLC started making money, they were like, we need to make sure that all this, we got to make sure that all of this continues to work for us, because we can, and again, that's one of the reasons that really, really quickly to go off a little topic. That's one of the reasons, why John Goslin left. He didn't want to do the show anymore after the 3rd season. And it became a bone of contention between him and Kate. Kate wanted to continue the show because they were getting paid a lot of money. But John didn't. John wanted to go back to work. He had a job that he enjoyed that apparently he got talked into leaving. And they paid him enough money to be able to leave his job. And they paid him enough money to be able to get a nice house for him and the kids. And that's what happens. Especially in reality, unscripted TV, because you get people who are like, no, I want to go back to what my life was before all the cameras came in, and TLC just pours more money. Why would you want to do that? Look how much money look how much money you're making. Look how much money you could put the kids through college. Everything will be great. Just do what we tell you. Of course, with my luck, TLC will probably call me on the phone and says, "Hey, we want to pay you a lot of money so we can." Be hard to pass up, but but yeah, I saw that I had to get that off my chest because for all the people who sat there and told me that, oh my God, they're like the perfect family. The Duggars are like the perfect family. For some reason, I just felt it in my bones that something was wrong. Because no one's that perfect. Nobody's that perfect. All right. That's it for the show today. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, go down, subscribe to the channel, bang the bell for notifications, bang the bell for notifications, so you always know when new videos are uploaded. Give me a big like, thumbs up, because it does help me with the algorithm and get this out to more and more people. You share it out to your friends, family, neighbors. Let them know what I'm doing over here as I'm stumbling over my words for some reason. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about today's topic. If you think I'm right on the money or nah, Goose, you're totally wrong. We love the Duggars and it's just Satan getting into their house. Also, at the end of this video, there's going to be a couple of other videos. They're going to be there for you to check out. Feel free to check those videos out and let me know what you think about them. Thank you so much for watching. This is On With The Show. I am Goose, and I will see you on the other side.